But the other thing as well you really wanted to make sure is that it feels like you can have a lot of combos. So here I've like frozen these enemies, and then if I use my other shotgun, I can shatter them, and it does like an AoE around the monsters. So to show you that again, you know, I can start by freezing these monsters and then shatter them apart.
Right.
So in PoE1, a lot of the time, you know, you just spam one skill again and again, and we really wanted to make sure that you actually have more variety in PoE2.
I mean, we've all heard it a million times by now. The vision that GGG and Jonathan want the game to be this like slow-paced, methodical, intentional combat system. Complete redesign of ARPG combat in general. But is that really true anymore? Even most recently in their Abyss League trailer thing, they talked about this.
One of the major issues is the limitation of only having one support gem of each type on your character. We didn't want builds to just become using the same 5 most powerful supports in every skill. The problem with this design though is that it's actually working against using multiple skills in your build. If you can only use each support gem on one skill, it means that you're encouraged to go all in on that one ability. And we want to encourage you to combo your abilities. Something needed to change.
How combos are so important and how they want to make that happen, and the support gems kind of held them back from having a more combo-based gameplay system. But the more you play the game, and especially the further you get into the acts, it becomes very, very clear that there's, well, not much methodical gameplay to be found. And if you're playing a combo-based build with a lot of buttons, you're most oftenly more punished than rewarded. This league I've gotten 2 different characters to maps. My second one, after reworking him 3 times, also got to kill tier 3 Zesht and Easy Arbiter, and well, outside of getting frustrated that basically nothing I wanted to, well, build for my character worked.
People, bro, I should bury this company. I could do like a 6-hour-long video of how thing makes sense in this game, bro. I'm gonna blackmail them. Take him out. All right, I'm leaving. I'll see you guys later.
I was actually having fun, kind of. But not because the gameplay was so slow and methodical and intentional, but rather because it went back to a more PoE1-esque gameplay system. I never really enjoyed just the one button clicking. I'm an MMO player most of the time, so in MMOs there's no such a thing. You have a lot of buttons, a lot of cooldowns, and you have to manage different rotations, different combos, different gear setups to make that rotation happen. So I was really excited when they first announced PoE2 because I felt like they tried to reimagine ARPG combat to be closer to what MMOs feel like, where you actually have to have a mix of different abilities, combo them together, have cooldowns, and stack them on top of each other to have the biggest outcome. But none of that seems to still exist. Oh my god, what the fuck? Hello? This is bugged, right? Okay. What the fuck is this? This was the first tier 2 map I did this league, and I thought it was bugged actually, because there's no way my entire screen is full of mobs, and I just get swarmed instantly by that many mobs in a tier 2 map. But that's just normal now, especially with Abyss in the game, and if you pair that with a Delirium and maybe even a corrupted map, your entire screen is full of mobs at all times. So just by judging from that, the more mobs are on your screen, the faster they move, the less of a combo gameplay is actually beneficial to your character, right? Because at the end of the day, if you can't kill the mobs fast enough and you have to set up 3 or 4 different abilities before you do damage, you're most oftenly dead if you're not tanky enough. 99% of the really good builds of this league are once again 1 or 2 button builds. I mean, the most obvious example is Lightning Arrow Deadeye, but there's many other examples of that as well. Being really fast, having no movement penalty through the row amount, and then just one-shotting the entire screen with a single button is just way, way, way better for this game, where the entire screen is full of mobs, than having multiple buttons to kill a white mob, right? Like this idea that you need to set up different skills just to kill one mob in the map, which is kind of what they alluded to initially, just doesn't exist. Just to give you some stats here, 33% of all characters in Rise of the Abyssal Softcore are playing Lightning Arrow, Lightning Rod. That's a third of all characters in a, well, game where everything is about making builds and having fun creating them, right? This is, I mean, it's even worse for the Deadeye Ascendancy in general, which is 37%, which was also very obvious from the beginning. Even in the patch notes, everyone already knew how strong this was gonna be. Well, besides GGG for some reason. Acolyte of Chayula, which they, well, in length talked about reworking, still no one is playing. The newly added Smith of Kitava, which was added last update, no one plays anymore because it's just clunky and everything takes way too long. The animations are terrible. Like, there's a very obvious gravitation in the community to what builds are actually good and enjoyable to play. And it's not the combo-based builds, although combos can sometimes still be useful in more endgame boss fights, but even the most recently added boss fight from the Abyss is such a mess from a ground degen standpoint, where you basically just have to roll around, dance around like really strong ground degens the entire time, so you barely even have time to press multiple buttons and do damage. But even there, it seems like their design of the game, of how the end game is supposed to be played, the difficulty of the maps, the difficulty of the bosses, and the amount of monsters in the game just don't seem to connect with their idea of having combo-based gameplay. It just doesn't make sense. And even if we go back to like Act 1, where we're fighting, just a few mobs at a time, it's also very clear that this combo-based, slow-paced gameplay, which is much more apparent in the early acts, still doesn't feel good, right? Does it feel good to have a 5-hour animation, get stunned in the middle of it, and then just rolling around until you have enough health again? I think what happened is they tried the slow and methodical gameplay route, and they've realized it's just not fun what they're creating. Because it isn't. Like, even in the early acts, I'm not having fun with the slow and methodical combat. As someone who wanted that kind of thing out of the game, I don't even enjoy it. At least not the version that they're trying to make. So instead of sitting here and complaining, oh my god, I wish the game was more slow and methodical and ruthless like in PoE 1, right? I actually find myself thinking maybe the direction they're going with the endgame combat, where you're just basically still pressing 1 or 2 buttons, just like in PoE 1, is just more fun. Because their version of the slow and methodical gameplay is just terrible. I'm sorry to say, but GGG, you had so many other games to take inspiration from. Well, most recently, from a top-down perspective, was Lost Ark, which I was a big fan of combat-wise. They took no inspiration from that, basically. Like, it feels so much worse than that. The melee is giga clunky. There's so much desync happening. My character teleporting around because there's body blocking of the mobs happening, and it just feels so janky, even when it is slow and methodical. And this also leads me to the uniques and the gems, because I think the uniques and the gems have been so fucking terrible because they were originally created for the slow and methodical gameplay. What I mean is, basically 99% of the uniques you find are completely worthless shit. Way worse than in any other ARPG. Although they stated before that they wanted to make the uniques more unique so they can actually be useful in endgame still.
Each unique is something that you can build your character around. We try to make sure that most unique items have a potential use at endgame, even if you find them early on. And as you can see, every single unique item comes with custom art to match.
They completely failed on that as well. I think that's also one of the reasons why. Because originally they thought, oh, the game's going to be much more slower pace. People were going to craft a lot less. They introduced a lot of crafting this league, so there's a lot more rare items that are really strong. And then the unique items are completely power crept. Like, you can't really justify using a unique with 10 energy shield and 5 armor over like a rare piece that costs 2 exalts and is 50 times better. And the same goes for the skill gems. Most of these buttons are completely unusable. I tried to make a build with Whirling Assault and Staggering Palm, and I'm gonna be honest, no matter what I tried, it just wasn't good. Like, Whirling Assault especially is probably the worst ability in the entire game. You can't make use of this in any capacity, basically. It has no range. It feels like it doesn't even scale with attack speed very well, besides just hitting more often, but the animation is still the same length. Like, it just feels janky and weird. And for every class and every, well, I should say every weapon, there's a very select few abilities that basically every single one is using on that specific weapon. And again, I think this is because the shift from the slow methodical gameplay to the high-paced PoE 1 style gameplay was too fast, and most of these abilities are still anciently designed with the slow pace in mind, but that doesn't exist anymore. So they're basically unusable. I thought about this a lot, what they should do, and if they should go back to the more, well, slow and methodical gameplay. But the more I played, the more it was clear that GGG is just not capable of making good slow-paced combat, and they should stick to their roots and actually go with the PoE 1 gameplay again, is my idea. And that's, by the way, coming from someone who doesn't want that, or didn't want that initially. I didn't want this game to be the same as PoE 1 again, where you just spam one button. But it's very clear that GGG can't make any other combat feel good. So I'm very disappointed in GGG and PoE 2. Not so much that they shifted their combat philosophy towards something faster again, but I'm more disappointed that they just couldn't figure out how to make the other combat system work. Also, Act 4 introduced a lot of double boss fights, which is also not very beneficial to a combo-based gameplay because there's too many things going on at the same time and too many things to dodge at the same time. So I feel like the entire design philosophy has shifted. Maybe Jonathan still thinks that the combo gameplay will happen at some point, but it won't. And that's just the reality. And that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.